Have you ever found yourself on the brink of wanting to do something and then talking yourself out of it? Well, this happens to many people. And did you know that this happens to children and teenagers too? I have seen that sometimes they're so afraid of getting the answers wrong that they may not even attempt to start the question or the assignment at all. And they talk themselves out of it, telling themselves all sorts of reasons why they can't do it. Some children I've worked with have even torn up their work or rubbed a hole in their piece of paper, all because of their need to produce that perfect piece. Brené Brown, in her Gifts of Imperfection, says, research shows that perfectionism hampers success. In fact, it's often the path to depression, anxiety, addiction, and life paralysis. So it's very important that we manage to ditch that perfection paralysis. Perfection is definitely overrated. My name is Clare Ford. I am an expert educator and a wellbeing entrepreneur, and I also mentor teens. I have 20 years experience working with young people, and I help them to go from unmotivated, disengaged, switched off and bored learners so that they then become confident, fulfilled and happy, as well as academically successful. Now, my passion is in seeing young people unlock that potential inside them, which I do by valuing their emotional growth and personal development, as well as supporting them to develop those key foundational life skills that they need. As a reformed people pleaser myself, I learned that being a good girl meant getting things right and doing them well. Now, this meant that it was very difficult for me to understand that doing something was better than not starting at all. For many of us, the fear of failure, humiliation, and ultimate rejection lie deep within the human psyche. The 5 things that I use to get past perfectionism and just do it are this. Number 1, just start with one small step. Once you take that first step and you haven't been eaten by that man-eating tiger, all that cortisol, adrenaline, and noradrenaline in your body can dissipate, and you can get those frontal lobes working again to make sure that you carry on with that momentum. And linked with that is step number 2, which is all about taking aligned action. So what do I mean by aligned action? Aligned action is when it's not that it feels easy, but it doesn't feel like an uphill struggle. It doesn't go against our values. It doesn't go against our vision and our mission. It doesn't clash with our sole purpose. So an aligned action is an intuitive action, even if it is stepping outside your comfort zone. Step number 3, we need to take time to replenish. Now, often when we're taking these steps, we're taking these aligned actions, we're moving through perfectionism into imperfection. It can be tiring because we're letting go of the old paradigm. We have to do the work around our own personal and emotional and spiritual development. We have to get rid of that chatter in our mind that tells us we're not worthy, we're not good enough, or we're not successful or qualified enough. We have to let go of all those limiting beliefs that have been hammered into us since childhood or even in the womb. So it takes work, and it means that we have to rest in between. And that takes me on to point number 4. Look back at the progress you have made, right? You may see there are some books behind me which I've written. Now, do you think it was difficult for me to start those books? Of course it was. And I had to start by writing the first word. I had to start by writing the title, or I might not have even known the title of my chapter when I started writing. But unless we start, we can't complete, right? And so it's so important to take a step back and to look at that progress you've made, even if you've only written the title, because that's more than you did yesterday. And finally, step number 5, it's all about being kind to yourself. right? On this journey of becoming, on this journey of developing, on this journey of stepping outside perfectionism into the imperfect world, it's very important that we have some self-compassion around that for ourselves. Now, failing forwards is something I like to talk about with my students, and I just want to give you Mia's story in a very brief snapshot. She came to me with maths anxiety, basically with maths paralysis. She was so afraid of getting things wrong in her maths lesson that she had spent 5 years crying at the back of the class because she was so worried about getting things wrong, about putting her hand up if she didn't understand. So she made no progress. She was in the bottom 3% in the class, and that was her average grade in her tests. So she came to me and we worked through lots of things. We didn't start on the maths straight away. I gave her strategies for anxiety, for managing panic attacks. I gave her strategies to develop her growth mindset. I explained to her about failing forwards and taking those first steps, that getting things wrong was progress. And after a few weeks of working together, Mia sent me a text to say that she'd got 43% in her maths test. And when I first saw that text, I thought, wow, that's not very good. And then I remembered that actually for Mia, this was a gargantuan step for her because she'd been getting 3%. And she said to me, Claire, she said, I'm in the top band in the maths class. I'm in the top band. She said, my teacher can't believe it. He doesn't understand what I could have done to have made that huge leap. And you know what it was that she did? Reaching out for help and taking the risk. She took the risk to step out from that perfection paralysis and step into the messy middle of becoming, that place of action taking, which is beautiful in its imperfection. So I would love to challenge you to do the same. If you are stopping yourself from getting going on something that scares you, I challenge you to take a step into that messy middle place and to see how it feels for you. For that is beautiful in its imperfection, and that is where the magic happens. If you would like to find out more about the programs I offer for children and teens and the support that I give families, please just find me on switchedonglobal.com, reach out and let's have a conversation. All right, take care. That's it from me, and have a beautifully imperfect day. Bye for now.